Hey YouTube, welcome back to another tutorial. In this episode, I'm going to teach you how to pass data up from a child component to a parent component. In our last video, I taught you how to pass data down from a parent component to a child component. And if you haven't seen that, be sure to check it out. I'll leave it in the description. But for now, I'm going to teach you how to do the opposite. So right now we have a parent component, which is a grocery list. And then we have a child component, which has an input field, which is going to allow you to add groceries. So if I wanted to add chips and I press submit, then chips would be added to this list. So how do we do that? Well, let's look at the code we have so far. So we have two components, our child and our parent. Starting off with our child, we simply have an h2, which says add a grocery. We have a label. We have an input of type equals text. And one thing to notice is we also have this template variable right here, which is going to allow us to access that value that the user entered. Then we have a button, which is going to be our submit button. And then if we look into the TS file, we have absolutely nothing. Now let's go on to the parent component. In our parent component, if we look at the TS file, we'll see we simply have a grocery list, which is just an array of strings. And if we look inside of the view template, we'll see we simply have an h1, which says groceries. We have an unordered list with the ng4 directive, which is displaying all of our groceries, and we're rendering the app child. So what is our goal? Our goal is to be able to get this user input and pass it up into this array. So how are we going to do that? So in order to do this, first we're going to have to access the TS file in our child component. And we're going to have to create a variable that's readable by the parent component. And in order to do that, we have to add the output decorator. But we also have to import output at the top here. Then we have to name this variable. I'll call it emit grocery. And this is going to be of type EventEmitter. Now EventEmitter is an object which allows us to emit events, and you have to import it right up top, as you can see here. For me, it happened automatically. It might not for you. So make sure you have EventEmitter at the top here. And for the EventEmitter object, you have to specify the type that you're emitting. So for us, it'll be string. And you have to have these parentheses at the end as well. Now that we have our EventEmitter, we're going to make a new function called add new grocery. And this is going to be the grocery that we add to the EventEmitter, which we're going to pass up to the parent. So we're going to call this.emit grocery, and we're going to emit the grocery that we got from our input field. So basically, what does this function do? It takes in a grocery, which is a string. Where are we going to get this grocery? Well, we're going to get it from the user input. And then once we get this grocery, we're going to use the EventEmitter to emit it to the parent component. So now that we have this function, let's implement it. So every time the user clicks on this button, this is event binding, by the way, we're going to call this function, add new grocery, and we're going to pass in the value from our template variable. Now that's all for our child component. Now let's look at our parent component. Now, like we said before, the child component is going to emit an event of type string. So we need a way to add that event into the grocery list array. So all we need to do is add some basic JavaScript. We'll make a function called add grocery, which takes in a grocery of type string. And then we're going to push that into the grocery list. Now let's actually get the value that the child is going to emit. And we do that by using event binding. So right now we need to connect the event in the child to the function that we just created. So let's type in emit grocery, which is our event emitter. And let's call the function add grocery. And we're just going to pass in the event we received from emit grocery. And if we save, that should work. So now if I type in a grocery, let's say I want to add chips, I want to add cucumbers, it's going to work. And that's all for our tutorial. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you have the time, although you don't have to. and have a good day, guys.